Much of the American public fails to understand that military sexual trauma is the number one reason for female veteran homelessness, the number one reason for substance abuse and suicide amongst the veteran population. So in our fight to end MST, we must urge elected officials to vote in favor of the Am Vanessa Guillen Act of 2020, so we can entitle progress for the next generation of young people who will enter the United States military. They deserve to be protected. Today, you will hear the stories of many veterans and active duty service members who have survived military sexual trauma, and many have not. So today, we're amplifying their voices so that you can understand why we're urging elected officials to help us end MST.
I am Corey Cashman, and I served in the Navy from 2011 to 2016.
I am Aisha Ahmad, and I served in the Army from 2006 to 2019.
I'm Carrie Sutton, and I served in the United States Navy from 2006 to 2009.
I am Justice Parsons. I am an Army veteran of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars.
Hi, I am Chandra Fifield. I served in the U.S. Navy from 2004 to 2012.
Every person has a story. It is our collection of...
I am Annalyn Instill, and I was a wife, a service member, from 2003 to 2014. I experienced my first MST experience when I was 17 years old in my own home.
What's up? My name is Royal, and I served in the U.S. military as well as going on a deployment.
I am Rosa DeSoto, and I served in the U.S. Navy from 1984 to 1990.
I'm Scott Lamke. I served in the Army from 1980 to 1983.
I'm Tara Wilden, and I served in the Marine Corps from 1994 to 1998.
Good afternoon, beautiful people. We are the proudest, the fewest, the boldest, and the bravest. I am Janelle Marina Mendez, and I'm a survivor of military sexual trauma. When I was 17 years old, I was the victim of a series of sexual violence. I was raped by my superior in the United States Marine Corps. After all of that, I was a victim of retaliation and harassment, which was so severe that I ended up with post-traumatic stress disorder. I was then charged with underage drinking and thrown in military jail for reporting my rape. The retaliation and harassment I faced resulted in me becoming homeless and on drugs. And by God, I was able to survive and make a life for myself. Today, I still struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder, and I often relive those painful memories in my day-to-day life. While I questioned a few times if I would make it, the VA has been instrumental in helping me manage my PTSD episodes that often cause me deep levels of pain. 1 in 4 women in the military report being victims of military sexual trauma. Many more do not report the sexual assault and harassment due to the culture of toxic masculinity that drives our military, and because the judicial system is stacked against us. Beyond the profound shame and humiliation that a veteran who's experienced military sexual trauma has to deal with, an MST veteran is also vulnerable to legal injustices. In the military, your chain of command is also your legal system.
At the age of 17 years old, I endured a series of sexual violence while serving on active duty. And today, you're going to hear the stories of others who have endured the same. Together, we can end MST. Help us urge our elected officials to vote in favor of the Am Vanessa Guillen Act of 2020.
I'm one of the 1.5 million veterans who experienced MST at the age of 19 years old while on active duty. I had my life threatened, was retaliated against, got PTSD, became suicidal, and started over drinking.
I am one of 1.5 million veterans who experienced MST at the age of 20 and 25 while on active duty. I was ostracized. I was denied career advancement. I was homeless, suicidal, developed PTSD, and even conceived a child.
I was in pain. Some of that pain still 38 years later haunts me.
I am one of 10 million adults that have experienced sexual trauma and domestic violence. 34.2% of women in Florida have experienced domestic violence and sexual assault.
I am one of 1.5 million veterans who have experienced MST, and over the course of my Navy career, I was assaulted multiple times, but most recently while I was stationed overseas at age of 31. As a result, I developed post-traumatic stress disorder. Many others who have experienced MST have turned to substance abuse as a way to dull their pain and have ended up homeless and on the streets, and even worse, some have ended up dead.
I could tell no one. I would be out of the Army in a heartbeat.
I am one of the 1.5 million veterans who experienced MST at the age of 21 while on active duty. I was stripped of all of my advanced job qualifications and told that with no credibility, I would go to jail if I would report the incident outside of my command. I developed PTSD and continue to struggle in the workplace.
I am one of the 1.5 million veterans who experienced MST at the age of 19 and 22 while on active duty. I was retaliated against, moved to another division, and eventually forced out because I was given orders to a ship with my rapist. I live with a TBI and PTSD every day.
I started having nightmares, really wild, vivid, real nightmares. Those nightmares still haunt me today.
Today's a deeply painful day for all of us as we turn our thoughts to the life of Vanessa Guillen. She was robbed of her future. Her dignity was taken away from her. In the last moments of her life, she lived in fear and suffered after she experienced military sexual trauma. She didn't experience sexual violence in combats. She experienced it right here on U.S. soil. She was fighting to protect us, protect our freedoms, the ones that we failed miserably at providing for her. She deserved the best of what the U.S. military had to offer, and we didn't deliver that standard. We have the most well-funded military in the world. We have the strongest military in the world. And they failed Vanessa Guillen. So today, we're gonna teach the U.S. military a lesson. A lesson that
The stories of many of these survivors are horrific, tragic, painful, and disturbing to hear. However, it's important that we listen and acknowledge their stories with compassion.
Now, Congressman Kildee, as an MST veteran who has survived this horrific trauma, I am urging you to vote in favor of the Am Vanessa Guillen Act. Today, she would have been 21 years old. We have a duty to protect the next generation of our young people who will enter the United States military. They deserve to be protected. We need your vote to help us. Hashtag end MST once and for all.
Congressman Delgado, as a veteran and MST survivor from your district, I urge you to please vote in favor of the I Am Vanessa Guillen Act. She would have been 21 years old today. It's time that we as a nation do better. It is our duty to ensure that our young people are safe when they enter the military. Let's end this plague of military sexual trauma once and for all.
Now, Congresswoman Walorski, as a Hoosier veteran, I am urging you to vote in favor of the I Am Vanessa Guillen Act.
Now, Congressman Ritzie, as a MST veteran who has survived this horrific trauma, I'm urging you to vote in favor of the I Am Vanessa Guillen Act. We have a duty to protect the next generation of young people who will enter the United States military. They deserve to be protected. We need your vote to help us end MST once and for all.
Now, Derek Kilmer, as an MST veteran who has survived this horrific trauma, I'm urging you to vote in favor of the I Am Vanessa Guillen Act. Today, she would have been 21 years old. We have a duty to protect the next generation of young people who will enter the United States military. They deserve to be protected. We need your vote to help end MST once and for all.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Live from Jacksonville, Florida. Coming to you is this beautiful lady, full of strength.
Congressman Lucifer, as a resident of your hometown of Jacksonville, Florida, and as an MST survivor, a domestic violence survivor, I urge you to vote in favor of the I Am Vanessa Guillen Act of 2020. Today, Vanessa would have been 21. I am a mother of 5 myself, and my heart just aches for Mama youth. We all have a duty to protect the next generation of our service members. You took an oath of office to protect us and to defend us, not only as our sheriff, but now as our representative of our district. We need your vote, and we need your support. It's time to put an end to MST. Once and for all.
Now, Congressman Biggs, as an MST veteran who survived this horrific trauma, I am urging you to please vote in favor of the I Am Vanessa Guillen Act. Today, she would have been 21 years old. We have a duty to protect the next generation of younger people who will be entering the United States military. They deserve to be protected. We need your help to vote and end MST once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
The person who raped you could easily be the person who is writing your court martial or determining your future orders. 53% of homeless female veterans are victims of military sexual trauma. When a person reports sexual violence, they risk losing everything, including their military benefits. The loss of benefits results in homelessness, the denial of access to the VA healthcare system, and in some cases, a retaliatory discharge that creates an inability to get a job in the labor force. Many veterans who experience this enter the underground economy and often become vulnerable to sex and drug trafficking as a means of survival. and most of us have been unable to get out. Female veterans who experience military sexual trauma are 2 times more likely to commit suicide than a non-MST veteran. According to Reuters, veterans who report MST are 70% more likely to commit suicide. Tens of thousands of veterans have committed suicide as a result of military sexual trauma. This is my story. I survived an intentional overdose. The pain of sexual, physical, and psychological trauma was so intense that at the age of 18, I thought life was not worth living. I had been raped, molested, harassed, spit on. I had been called names like Look, a woman outside the kitchen, a walking mattress, a hoe, a slut. I had been choked. I had a metal chair thrown at me. I had been starved and sleep deprived over the course of 3 days alongside another female Marine. When I requested legal and medical attention, I was denied and locked in a room for 15 hours. I was told by the chain of command that hazing and sexual abuse was a part of the culture that I signed up for. Our military sexual trauma movement is inspired by the story of so many female Marines from across the nation. We may be a super minority, but we hold on to our values tightly. And we demonstrate what we believe is justice by coming together and combating the toxic masculinity that has harmed us for so long. We are the ones who remain unnamed. We are the veterans whose stories remain untold. And this is why we are at a crossroads today. Now, we are writing a new story together. One of progress, inspiration, and compassion. We're looking to bring a Bill of Rights to the victims of military sexual trauma to Congress, to pass laws that protect survivors. We have a new generation of young people who are entering the United States military who deserve to be protected.
Trying to get better after all of these endeavors. They watch me in displeasure like a standard to measure, like it's something to treasure. Wait till they see me come back. Wait to see me come back. Wait to see me come back.
Much of the American public